How do you save the baby from being strangled that was born? Oh my God. How do you save the baby from being strangled that was born the age you said you were in foster care? All right. I've made a video about this. If you need fact checked, you can go there. If you need someone who was physically there, which was my mother, you could message her if you want to as well. On so many drugs that they were like passed out. My baby brother was crying. The living room, but that's where my parents were, loaded as fuck, excuse my language. Completely passed out. I could literally bang pots and pans and they wouldn't hear me. If you need someone who was physically there, which was my mother, you could message her if you want to as well.
Yeah, your mom told me about that story too. It was, I mean, everything checks up. You guys are just getting your information twisted.
But my brother Johnathan, he was in his crib, which was located in the living room next to curtains, and the curtains had really long strings. My parents were, I'm assuming, loaded off of heroin, and they were conked out to the world, yet right next to the crib. If you need someone who was physically there, which was my mother, you could message her if you want to as well. The curtain strings was wrapped around his neck. I was screaming at my parents, shaking them, and they wouldn't wake up. If you need someone who was physically there, which was my mother, you could message her if you want to as well. I was like, okay, just another night, living, you know, best life. I was in the middle bedroom of the trailer, which was the only thing in between the bedroom and the living room was a mini kitchen. So I could still hear what was going on out in the living room. We lived in a tiny ass trailer. I was watching Roseanne. My brother started crying, kept crying. Then it was a type of cry that I've never heard before. I went out there. He was purple, like on the verge of death because the curtain strings was wrapped around his neck. I was screaming at my parents, shaking them, and they wouldn't wake up. I had to save my brother's life. He was literally on the verge of death. And if it wasn't for me being there, he would have died. I just want to say, I don't lie on YouTube. That's definitely something I don't do. I don't make these videos to fake a life or fake things that I say. Well, today I figured maybe you can get to know me and why I am the way I am now. I remember as a younger girl, I did have a very, very hard childhood. My parents were drug addicts. They abused each other, neglected each other, but when I was 8 years old, my mom said that she was pregnant with her third child. I already had a brother, and he's younger, so I'm the older child, and I was really happy. I was thrilled, actually. I knew she was doing drugs with him. So when my brother was born, he was so adorable, and gosh, I loved him. As days went on, I did kind of take the role of being a parent in a way. I still remember one time in particular when my parents were on so many drugs that they were like passed out. My baby brother was crying, and I wasn't sure why, so I went into the room of where they were, and it was because his crib was by a curtain, and the curtain string was wrapped around his neck. I will never forget that day as long as I live. Even now it's emotional for me. His face was purple, he was screaming, crying, and to put it shortly, I had to save his life, and I did. And then I realized that I don't think my parents will ever change. I was a 9-year-old, and I was taking on the role of being a mother. So one day when I was at school, I think 3rd or 4th grade, I got a call to the office. There were police there, and I wasn't sure what was really happening, and come to find out, I was being put into foster care. I was being put into foster care with my one brother, but my little brother was being put into a separate home. After being in foster care for over a year, I was actually in a children's shelter for longer than that. I found out that my brother was actually going to be an adopted child. He was going to be put in closed adoption, which meant I would never be allowed to see him again. It broke my heart, and it still does. And it happened 12 years ago. In a way, I felt like my own child was being adopted. So it was just a hard time for me. After trying to accept it, I was thrown around into different foster homes and with my other brother, and soon we got separated. We were separated for a few years. It was very hard. A lot of the time I felt alone and just confused with life. When I turned 12, my parents finally decided to get their act together, and we went to court, and we had a 6-month trial to live with them. And that trial turned into 2 years, but it was a failed trial. The whole time my family was just getting worse and worse. I started smoking marijuana. I turned to the wrong type of people to hang out with. My brother started acting out. He started hitting me. My parents got worse. Their drug addiction went to a whole new level. We actually lived in a trailer. That's mainly what I lived. Whenever I lived with my parents, that's mainly where we lived. It was the smallest trailer ever. I ended up being put in a mental hospital. I didn't think I needed it. I was in the mental hospital for about 6 days, and obviously they diagnosed me with depression, which I already knew. I was diagnosed with depression since the age of 10, and I was taking antidepressants for I don't even know how long. But after I left the mental hospital, I took a whole new meaning of life because I saw people in there that were mental. I don't think I was meant to be there, but it did change my life. Somewhere in my younger years, my mom did have another child, and I held him once, and she put him up for closed adoption the day he was born. I know my 2 brothers are out there, and more than anything, I just hope that one day they can look at me and I can look at them, and we know that we're family. I miss them every day. Even if I knew one brother longer than the other one, I love them both equally. And more than anything, being able to see them again would mean the world to me. I was in class yet again, and I get called to the office. About school, I never went. I didn't care about school. Just not care. Like, I'd go and I wouldn't do any of the work. School was hard. I got made fun of every single day. Every day I was bullied. I was the smelly kid. I was the fat girl. That's how people knew me. I was Fat Amber. But as I was in class on one day, I got called to the office. The cops came, and yet again, me and my brother were being put into foster care. And I was just texting my friend, simply joking, saying I should live with you, because she was my best friend at the time. And little did I know, 2 months later, I was living with her. It was absolutely insane. I don't know how it happened. It happened so quickly, and honestly, at the time, I thought this was beginning to a whole new life that I was gonna love every minute of. But I was definitely wrong. Number 5 is to see my brothers and my parents again. I have not seen my parents since I was 18 years old, so that's been almost 9 years. I have not seen one of my brothers in the same amount of time, and my other 2 brothers I have not seen for probably around 15, 16 years. 2 of my brothers out of the 3 were put into closed adoption, so I don't know where they live, who their parents are, but they're in my hearts on a day-to-day basis. And something that ties into this one is, more than anything, I want to find them, and I want them to know they have a sister out there that cares about them and loves them. I don't really want to go any more into that because it will make me very, very sad. As a little girl, I loved Nick at Night. I watched Nick at Night quite a bit. We lived in a trailer, and in the middle room was the only room that had a TV besides a living room, but that's where my parents were. Their location of using drugs was in the bathroom, so every time I'd go in there, I knew that when they came out, they'd be a different person. Loaded as fuck, excuse my language. Completely passed out. I could literally bang pots and pans and they wouldn't hear me. So I was in the middle room. It was like my safe place. I was zoning out on some Roseanne, ironically enough, because I'm still obsessed with her. And all of a sudden, my baby brother was literally just crying his eyes out. And he was barely even 1, or he might have been 1, a little over 1, but it was like around that age. At the time, I didn't realize my parents were like so out of it in that like moment. So I kind of just let my baby brother cry. I was expecting like my mom and dad to like wake up and, you know, feed their son. Their location of using drugs was in the bathroom. I think I was about 8 years old at this moment, so keep that in mind. I'm an 8-year-old little girl. And he just kept on crying, and I was getting annoyed. I started turning Roseanne up. I'm like some little brat turning up the freaking volume. Like, my brother's crying and driving me nuts. Like, I didn't think anything of it. I really honestly thought he needed his diaper changed. Like, it's that simple. And, I mean, I turned up Roseanne for as loud as it could go. It was an old TV. Like, we're, like, literally trailer park trash. That's what we were. That's what everyone saw us as, and everything. Like, our TV sucked, and I was 8. This was back in, like, 1997, 1998, something around them lines. I'm pretty sure 1997, 1998, either one. So, I could still hear my brother. It was, like, freaking annoying, because they were so knocked out on, like, whatever drug they did. I don't know, like, if it was pills or heroin or whatever, because I remember, like, they would get, like, so many pills, whether it be Xanax, whatever, they would melt them on a spoon and put them in their veins with a, like, needle or whatever, and they didn't know I knew this. Like, I'm a little girl, 8 years old, and I knew this was happening. And it's like, them doing that to their body, it made them incapable of being parents in any sort of way ever. Like, and I want to say a couple months later after that moment, that is when I was put into foster care. And my whole foster care experience is a whole other, like, video. Like, I have been requested to do that video so many times, and I just can't. I mean, I will, but I just can't. Like, right now, like, I've tried a few times, and I get too, like, flustered, and, like, people ask why was I in foster care, and people want to know my foster care experience, and I'm just not really ready to film those videos, but I will eventually, I promise. But yeah, like, I saved my little brother, and I will never forget that. And now he is put into a closed adoption, I haven't seen him, and I want to say like 13 years, and it breaks my heart more than anything. Okay. Emotional video, I told you, it was really hard for me to film. I got through it, and I did it. And I just want to say, like, after the situation where he started breathing better and he wasn't as purple and stuff, like, I held on to him for dear life. And my parents still didn't wake up. And I was, like, fucking frantic, like, yeah. They didn't wake up, I want to say, for, like, a day and a half. And they were just in that, like, same position, like, chilling. And I had to do everything for my little brother. I had 2 little brothers at the time. My other brother was just like a year younger than I, so he was like 7. But I saved his life. I will never forget that moment, and I hope right now in his adoptive home that he is just shining, and I hope he's happy. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have any other videos you want to see me film, just tell me in the comments below. Bye. But now I still have one other brother out there, Johnathan. And Johnathan, actually, I took care of when I was like 8 and 9. He was just a baby, and I actually saved his life one time. I actually made a video about that. So I have like a really big, strong connection to him. Do I think he'll reach out? I don't. And I think it's because he doesn't know he's adopted. And that happens a lot, because it's like, I'm going to call him James because that was his name. His parents did change his name. The brother, the 18-year-old that I'm talking about now. So James, would he have known if it wasn't for that argument between him and his sister, you know? So it's like, I think about stuff like that. And it's like, Johnathan probably doesn't know because he probably never had the opportunity, or his parents didn't want him to know. Or maybe he does know and he's like, you know what, I don't care. Like, I don't care about who my real family is. Not real family, but blood family. Because some people are like that, you know? Which I understand, but oh my God. I would give up so much to be able to meet him. And you know, I searched for them online literally all the time, and I know this is gonna sound like super creepy, but it's like, you have to be in the situation to understand. Like, I would search their name into like Facebook, and so many would pop up, and I would sit there and I would stare at each picture, and I'd be like, do I feel a vibe? Do I think that's them? Do they look like me? Do they look like my mom? Or, you know, and I never felt it. And then when my 18-year-old brother found us, I look at him and I'm like, that is the feeling that I've been searching for. Like, looking at him and being like, wow, he's literally a twin to my other brother. Like, you know, you try to find this feeling, and yeah, it's so crazy. Like, I always think, like, okay, if he would have popped up during one of my searches, would I have felt that way? 100%, because he literally looks exactly like my brother Tony. It's so crazy. What if he's a viewer and doesn't even know? He actually, oh yeah, Johnathan, that would be crazy. Johnathan, if you're out there and you live in California and you were adopted, I think you're like 19 now. When I was 8 years old, my mom said that she was pregnant with her 3rd child. I think you're like 19 now. I'm your sister. And I took care of you. And I loved you like you were my own. And I was only 8 years old. God, it breaks my heart. And you had a hearing aid, and you had glasses, and you were the cutest little baby ever. That would be crazy. But yeah.